But what it did do was it piqued my curiosity, and I wanted to find out more. Who was this Jacob? What was I hearing? What was this all about? And I just went on this quest for more information. But at the same time, I'm still meditating, and I'm going deeper into trance. I'm bringing in, what was 3 words is now a sentence, is now 2, is now 4. I was writing it all down in a journal, and I was noticing some interesting things, things that I wouldn't even talk about or know about, or ways that I wouldn't talk, But then I started to voice record myself on my iPhone. And that for me was what blew my mind. And I heard my voice change. I would hear if I was connecting with maybe an angelic presence who is a female, or someone who's a little lighter, my voice would get really high. Or if there was a male entity present, my voice would get very low. I was talking about things, ascension and things that I didn't even really know about. And the messages kind of got bigger than me. And
you got to accentuate the positive. I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you
Hello,
want.
welcome to Accentuate the Positive with Karen Swain for another fascinating conversation with open hearts and inspired minds. I'm so excited to have on the show today Micheilas Sheldan, who is a channel of higher consciousness and a teacher, a spiritual teacher, and the founder of, and I've forgotten already, Micheila, the Flower of Life Center. There you go, I remember it. The Flower of Life Center in, whereabouts is it?
Detroit, Michigan. Based out of Detroit, Michigan, but we're an international organization, but based here.
Ah, beautiful. Well, I'll have to quiz you a bit more about the Flower of Life Center because that sounds pretty awesome. So, Micheila, your story, welcome to the show, Micheila.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I saw you on YouTube. I follow Ruben, the Galactic actor.
Yes, love Ruben. Yeah, we had a fun weekend together here in Detroit. He came out to film me. He's so great.
Ruben Langdon, yeah. And he has done some beautiful films of you and his, production. He's obviously in the movie industry, and his production and his sound and his camera work, because I used to be in the movie industry as well. So I really loved that slick effect that he had with you. Really beautiful. And he's done some gorgeous interviews with you. Yeah.
He's creative. Yeah. I love what he's doing. Yeah.
And I loved what you were bringing through. It sounds very similar to the mob that I bring through, and I just love expanding this consciousness and this awareness. But I want to get into your story because I always find it so fascinating how people come to this. It's such a journey awakening to your life plan. So what was happening for you at the time that you started asking different questions?
Well, it's kind of an interesting story because this was not at all what I thought I'd do with my life. I was living in this mainstream world, got this business degree, marketing degree, had 2 kids, and stayed at home, decided to leave the business world behind, stay at home with them, stay-at-home mom, was the volunteer junkie. I ran the PTA, I ran the Girl Scout troops, the social organization, all this stuff. And, like many of us do, I came to my spiritual awakening in a really crummy time in my life. I was experiencing some chronic pain. I was having some health issues. And this started after the birth of my second daughter. And I had severe pain in my low back, leg, and hip. And was going to all these doctors, on this hamster wheel, I call it, of Western medicine every year, getting prescriptions and tests and diagnoses, and getting worse and worse as the years went by. And I ended up making a move around, it was probably about a good, 3-4 years before I started really going directly into this channeling field. I made a move from one side of town to another. And, I truly believe in divine timing, divine guidance. The universe picks us up and drops us off exactly where we need to be And it's usually not our favorite place in the world. And that's exactly what happened to me. I was very supported and loved in this community. I was a leader of the community, but yet they knew of my condition. So if I was having a bad day, they would pick up my kids, get stuff from the grocery store, and I turned around and found myself in a neighborhood where I couldn't make any of that work to save my life. I tried to be a part of that volunteer world. Everyone hated me. I couldn't make a friend to save my life. Found myself very alone. And I had to take a pretty hard look at myself in the mirror. Wow. I was 40 years old at the time. Yeah. And the pain had gotten so bad. The stress of the move had compounded this pain to the point where I was having my nerves ablated. I was taking antidepressants. I was washing it all down with alcohol. Wow. And I knew something had to change. So in this new neighborhood, I was exposed to Eastern philosophy, which is something I had never considered or been exposed to before. And meditation was something that first came into my awareness. And I had read that it could disconnect me from my pain. And I thought that was worth a shot. So I meditate regularly. And when I say regularly, like 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night. And it was not for any spiritual type of a goal. It was really solely to relieve this physical pain. And I started to obviously notice some very amazing things happening as I was meditating. I was starting to hear voices and things. I was connecting to information. And, at the time I thought, wow, my mind is really making this up. I need to, get my brain out of the picture. But what was really interesting to me was when I walked about my day, between meditations, during just doing day-to-day activities, I would have these casual conversations with people. And I would get home and I would think I heard something in the conversation that they didn't say out loud. And I would question myself, scratch my head like, wow, did they really say that to me? And it was often really personal, didn't even fit the conversation. And I wouldn't respond. And I thought, man, I didn't even respond to them. And I started to accuse myself of being a poor listener. But I came to find out I'm actually a really excellent listener. And all this culminated for me in one crazy event on Christmas morning, 2010. And I was making Christmas dinner that morning, having a big dinner party at my family. I'm the oldest of 3 kids. Everyone comes to my house. And I was making this special recipe that required some, special ingredients for the holiday. And I got up that morning just joyous, ready to cook, and went to the pantry and discovered I had forgotten to purchase these very key ingredients for this recipe. And so I got a little stressed. I got out of stool, started pushing things around, thinking, surely I can mock this thing up. It's got to be something. Knowing full well the grocery stores are all closed on the holiday. I even phoned the local gas station just to see if they had anything on their shelf with, which of course they didn't. And so my practice at that time, stress equaled pain, straight to meditation. So I told the family, Mom needs a couple minutes. I went into the bedroom, closed the door, went into a very deep meditation. And I heard a very deep male voice that day, as if in the room with me. And it was so loud that it shook me out of the meditation. Wow. And there were only 3 words. And those words were, I am Jacob. And I tried to communicate back with Jacob that day, but I didn't get anywhere. And I wasn't afraid. I just felt this very beautiful, buzzy, peaceful energy come over me. And I just felt at peace. I thought, this is ridiculous. I can salt and pepper this thing. I don't know why I was so upset. And I walked out to the pantry, opened the door, and there on the shelf in front of me in a very neat, tidy row in sealed containers were the 3 ingredients I was missing for this recipe. And I was overjoyed. I thought, wow, I had manifested something into my physical reality that day, or maybe this Jacob heard me. And
but you didn't think that you'd just not seen them before, you didn't think.
Well, of course I did. After the fact, I thought, wow, I really must have missed those ingredients there. Right. Because you kind of want to negate the miracle that it is, and that's human nature, right?
Yep.
But, I just remember it being a beautiful day. I just made the meal, had a great day, didn't tell a darn soul, and really kind of put it out of my mind for a good year.
Another year. Yeah.
About it. But what it did do was it piqued my curiosity. And I wanted to find out more. Who was this Jacob? What was I hearing? What was this all about? And I just went on this quest for more information. But at the same time, I'm still meditating, and I'm going deeper into trance. I'm bringing in, what was 3 words is now a sentence, is now 2, is now 4. I was writing it all down in a journal, and I was noticing some interesting things, things that I wouldn't even talk about or know about, or ways that I wouldn't talk, but then I started to voice record myself on my iPhone. And that for me was what blew my mind. And I heard my voice change. I would hear, if I was connecting with maybe an angelic presence who was a female, or someone who's a little lighter, my voice would get really high. Or if there was a male entity present, my voice would get very low. I was talking about things, ascension and things that I didn't even really know about. And the messages kind of got bigger than me. And what ended up happening was I actually found out who Jacob was. I channeled him quite a bit during that time when I would say I was awakening or ascending into this gift. And I found out he was actually a past life connection for me.
Okay.
He was a small boy in a past life, and he was lost.
A small boy.
He was a young boy, and he was lost. And I took him in, and I fed him, and I clothed him, and I cared for him in that life.
Yeah.
And he came back in this life indebted to me to help me remember why I came. And I was told I have a mission here. It wasn't something I wanted to accept right away. And as I brought more and more of these beings in, I started channeling extraterrestrial beings and collectives, and, not something I wanted to talk about at the local bake sale. I was doing this in my closet, but I ended up attracting, a family around me, some very supportive people who said, you have to listen to your material. You really need to put it out there. And, I finally got to that point where I just took small steps to let the cat out of the bag and open up more to family and friends, and then audiences, very oddly enough.
Look, it's such a courageous journey, because mainstream is not really on board, and we just look like crazy to them. Because I've been doing this for as long as I can remember. It was a very, very gradual. I love hearing people's awakening journey, because they're so different and diverse, and I've spoken to so many about, and they're beautiful. Mine was just such a slow process. It wasn't that exciting at all, but I think that the quickening, because I started awakening when I was 15, so it was a long time ago, but the quickening now, where people are really waking up quickly, and some of them are like bang, their guides are like, hello,
knocking you over the head. That's what happened to me. Absolutely.
Sledgehammer moment. I'm just thinking about your pain. I'm thinking about all that pain that you went through, and it's just like the thought came, it's just a sledgehammer moment. It's like, are you listening? You can't continue to have a life like this. It's painful for you. You have to shift your frequency. You have to shift your way of being. You have to start to be why you came, because when you're not, it's going to be painful for you.
Absolutely. There's no question that's the reason I was in pain. And I think there are many others out there who are in pain similarly, because they're suppressing their truth. And, I did actually heal myself 100%. I'm 100% pain-free today. And I always say, I didn't know that I could channel information about my health at the time, but I just credit being so aligned with source in that way, that the things that I needed showed up for me in such synchronistic ways. I mean, when I look back on that path, I'm just so grateful, because it was like I was led to this, practitioner who had exactly the right experience that I needed, who sent me to a book, who sent me to a nutritionist, who sent me, and it was like the person was taking the last person for free when I didn't have the money. And I look back, and 100% pain-free, got off all my medications, probably in the best shape of my life now. But when you think about why that pain was there, and I channel so much about this now, that the physical body just holds so much information. And when that information is in resistance, we're not in balance and in harmony with the universe. And that's how these things happen. But what a knock over the head that was, right?
Yeah. Oh, sledgehammer moment. Oh, look.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I had several of those actually.
So where did you have the pain? Did you have it everywhere? Was it a systemic pain?
Well, what I ended up finding out, I finally got a correct diagnosis. My SI joint in my hip is it's obliterated. It still is today. It's not fixable. This is your hip joint. And I guess a lot of women go through this in childbirth. The hips actually move to allow for the childbirth. And sometimes that hip joint it just never goes back into the right place. And mine on x-ray looks like a piece of spaghetti, and it's supposed to look nice and straight. But it doesn't hold me back today. I mean, I know what I need to do. I'm in great shape. It had just gotten to the point where it was just a chronic pain that expanded. It went into my back, my legs. I had numbness in both of my legs. It debilitated my muscles to the point where I felt like I was going to be in a wheelchair. I tell this story where I started to have my nerves ablated, which is severing the nerves every 6 months to eliminate pain. And I had this defining moment. I was in this pain management clinic laying there because you have muscle spasms as a result of these nerve ablations. And I was having some very severe muscle spasms. I was looking around me at the people there, and, we're talking about people in their 80s and 90s who were just managing, pain on their way out the door. And here I was just like, wow, here I am 40 years old. I don't belong here. I don't belong here, and I know because of this story, I have so many people who reach out to me all over the world who have very similar issues, who are struggling with chronic pain. And I truly believe we can heal anything.
Yeah. You know what I'm thinking? What I'm thinking when you say I don't belong here, the 80-year-olds don't belong there either.
Exactly.
Yeah. Age doesn't equal pain.
Right.
Although it's a mass consciousness that says it does. And as I get older, I find myself indulging in that, thinking, that's not true. That's not true. Just because I'm older doesn't mean I have to be creaky. But anyway, that's another story. But, I was speaking to a beautiful channel the other day who channels Mother Mary, and her message was very much about self-acceptance and self-confidence. And someone who has such a shift in their life from soccer mum to channel, that takes a lot of self-confidence and self-acceptance. And now you're on the verge of this huge expansion. Your work is getting known, you're getting out there, people are coming to you in droves. How did you deal with that, your self-acceptance, that this is who I am and this is what I'm doing and I'm cool with it and I don't care what anyone says?
I get asked that question a lot lately because I feel like so many people are in that same place.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
It's so many people have awakened to their truth, but they're holding on to these old paradigms and these old programs that are keeping them back from who they're supposed to be in the world.
Yeah.
And it wasn't easy. I don't think anything like this is easy. It was little baby steps. It truly was. We are in such a state of fear. And you blow it up in your mind to the point where it becomes debilitating. I thought in here, I grew up very Catholic, Italian family. There was no talk of channeling, and to me, the thought of coming out as a channel in the world and my family knowing what I did was just devastating. But, I took it in little chunks and I just started letting the cat out of the bag little by little, sucking it up and just saying, this is who I am, and clenching, But, what I came to realize is, my family, there are family members who are never going to understand what I do, nor are they going to listen to it. But they still love and accept me, for who I am. And the people that don't, they've kind of fallen out of my life. And that's okay because they don't really match my vibration anymore. But there's what we forget is, when we're vibrating at a new speed, because everything is energy. So when we're living our inner truth, we're actually vibrating at a higher speed. And so the more I let the cat out of the bag, the more I started owning my truth, the easier it was and the better I felt. Like it just was like second nature. Like, why did I wait so long to do this? What was I so afraid of? This is exactly who I want to be. This is exactly where I want to go. And then I attracted a whole new group of people around me. And that's, I think, what people forget about. They see the stuff that they feel, the stuff that they know they're going to leave behind. And we know we have relationships and things that they just don't match who we are anymore. And it's scary. But it doesn't mean that that relationship can't change. I had friends who I never thought would accept this in me who are now channeling themselves.
Yeah.
I never thought. And, it's funny, even family members who I thought they're never going to accept this, they don't want to talk about it in front of others, but I'll get that text message, I've been hearing voices my whole life. They ask questions because I think we're all experiencing this in our own way, but we just don't have, others around us that show us that mirror that. And so it's kind of been fun to see some of those people come out of the closet and experience spirit in their own way and ask me questions. So, I just say you do it little by little. You don't do it all at once. You pick something small each day and you move forward. And, that's kind of what I did. Yeah. It's easier for me to be public than it was to be with my family, actually, believe it or not. Yeah.
No, I believe it. I'm just thinking about my family. My brother is an atheist, although I think he's more agnostic these days. And he married a good Catholic girl, which was an interesting combination because I had a conversation with them when they were getting married. I said, "Are you going to baptize your kids?" And he said, "No." And she said, "Of course." But they've been seeing my journey for as long as they can remember and calling me crazy. But I've watched them evolve too, evolve into, and it happens unknowingly in a way. They start to believe things. I think there's this famous saying that Schopenhauer, first they ridicule you, then they judge you, and then it's self-evident. Then they say it's self-evident. And it's really interesting. It's, I think that, anyway, that quote, whether it was him, Schopenhauer or not, but how they come around to believe things and things that they judged you about years ago, and that it's self-evident. Of course, it's, it makes sense and it becomes common sense. It's really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. But, what I've come to believe is we, in every soul contract that we have, whether that be a family member, a relationship, whatever, we're here to uphold our inner truth for the purpose of that soul contract, because we're here to learn from each other. And if we're not vibrating in our inner truth, we don't even honor our soul contracts. If we're not living in our truth, there are things that people are meant to learn from us, and, we're meant to learn from them. But if we're in this state of fear and we're suppressing everything, we're really not even honoring those relationships that we came to serve. That's the way I look at it now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, I have still a lot of relationships in my life that, people I went to school with that, they think I'm crazy, but they're still there. I remember where a girlfriend said to me years ago, "I think everything you believe in is bullshit, but I love you."
Well, that's a good energy to have, I guess.
The spiritual community talks like we're going through this mass ascension and the world is waking up and everyone is going to come to know what we know. And when you look around the world and you look on mass media, that just seems like that's not happening anytime soon. Like what's going on mass media and
right. Yeah.
So what would you say to that? It's just happening slowly.
The guides that I work with, the collectives that I work with, are talking about actually a splitting of the timelines here on our Earth, and that's happening right now. They describe it as the splitting of the timelines, which is actually two separate dimensions existing on the Earth at the same time. So we'd have a group of people who really haven't gone through that ascension process to the point where they're still anchored in the material world and in the third dimension. And those are some of those people you're seeing who are, watching the media and, are on the media and those sorts of things. But we have another dimensional consciousness or another timeline that's being created, and that's the fifth dimension. And those people are going to be ascending, and we're going to be experiencing two different realities here on Earth. And the people that are going to be anchored in the third dimension are, they're going to experience more suffering. And I think it's because it's inevitable that we're going to be rebirthing things on this planet. And there are programs, structures here that are going to fail. And those that are kind of ready to bring in the new are going to be experiencing that new without the suffering, right? So we'll still know those people. They'll still be, we're still going to exist together on this planet. It's just we're going to be existing, some of us, in a higher dimension. And you can already see that, right? Even in,
Yeah, I think there are many dimensions that exist simultaneously on this timeline, and it's simply the fact that if you're tapped into your intuitive abilities and you're an empath and you read people's thoughts, you're already existing in another dimension, within the third dimension. You're already vibrating. You're skipping through different timelines and dimensions. It's already happening, but I think that probably what you're saying is two separate mass consciousnesses, because there's the majority, there's the mass conscious, which is third dimensionally based, and then there is this groundswell of fifth dimensional consciousness emerging.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Collective consciousness, right? Two collective groups.
Two collective consciousnesses, yeah.
Yeah, because we do vibrate. I mean, we have the ability to move in and out of a variety of different dimensions.
Yeah.
It's just, as a collective, we hold one dimension here, right? And that one, we affect that dimensional consciousness as a oneness. So that's what the guys are saying, two separate dimensional realities of collective consciousness here. So, and you can kind of see that now, like we've been talking about people that are maybe in pain, or right. We're starting to bring in more self-healing tools and energetic and vibrational healing tools, or some people are still going to be defaulting to, medicines and chemicals and things outside of the physical body for healing, material things for healing. And those things are going to fail. They don't have a place here on our earth anymore. So when that happens, if those people do not have the awareness, right, of a higher dimensional type of healing, they're going to struggle more than those of us who already are tapping into that type of information, because it's higher dimensional information.
I'm just thinking of the healing industry. The allopathic industry is such a powerful collective. The medicine, drugs, and I have so many friends that are spiritual healers and teachers, but then when they get sick, they go straight to the doctor. And I've always found that really fascinating, because I've been studying, energetic healing for years and years. And if I break my bone or if I hurt myself, I do my work. Like I've even fallen over and smashed, fractured a bone. If I snap something, I'm in the hospital, right? But if I fracture something, I just go into meditation and see it being healed. And
right.
And because I know that's possible, but so many of the healers that actually practice healing work don't know it's possible. It's interesting. It's just such a powerful collective consciousness, the allopathic.
Yeah. Well, and the guides that I work with, they even take it into the way we existed. I mean, we existed in a dimension that made us very singular. And when we did that through our intention, the guys often talk about the mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical bodies. And those bodies are supposed to function in the structure as one. But we've, through our singular perception, made them very singular. So you can see how we operate, when something physical happens to us, we're looking for something physical in order to change that, not really connecting that physical body with the spiritual essence, right, of the truth of who we are, and using it all together. And that's where people in the fifth dimension are going to start becoming self-healers, because we're reintegrating those bodies to function together in the way that they were intended, as opposed to seeing everything so material and singular and reaching outside of the self for something, and that's a big change structurally that we're going through right now with this transition. Yeah.
Well, I think the two biggest topics of conversation collectively are health and money, and I saw you have a conversation with, and his name's, I've forgotten, the fellow that runs that show.
Ethan Fox?
Ethan, sorry, Ethan.
Yeah, that's okay.
I was watching you last night and I've forgotten his name already. Anyway, I'm good with names. And you were having a conversation about the money, the money system, and you were saying that, and I witnessed this as well, and I've been a victim of it, as a light worker, as a healer. That sort of money consciousness thing is torturing. So I'd really love to discuss the sort of consciousness around money and being a light worker. You hit on, with Ethan, you hit on a couple of fabulous things, as, a lot of light workers see money as evil. It's a third dimensional construct and I'm above that now. But you know what? Guess what? We still have to have money to pay our bills. So it's this juggling act between these two dimensions.
It's it's interesting you bring up money, because that's been the topic of almost all of my channelings lately, both in private sessions.
It's big.
Just recently, and that's the topic that the guides are choosing as we go into this transition, because it's a really big one.
Yep.
So they've been talking about, we talked about these two separate dimensional realities, the third and the fifth. Well, really most of us are existing in this fourth dimensional space right now, which is the transitional space.
It's a transitional space. And what happens, I kind of really get both the fifth and the third, having lived both of them, but I'm not sure, like the fourth seems fuzzy to me. It's like this fuzzy.
Because it is.
It's like intertwined, isn't it?
We don't really belong there. It's not a comfortable space, and that's where everybody has been. And I mean, almost every one of my clients, they're stuck. They're not moving forward. The money fell away. The job fell away. The relationship fell away, but nothing new is coming, and they're not moving forward. And the guides have called it a holding pattern, and this holding pattern is actually the fourth dimension. And so what's going on here? We talked about, these bodies, the mental, physical, emotional, spiritual bodies all coming back together. We've gone through a lot of structural changes in this fourth dimension because the planet is vibrating faster. And we've had a really hard time keeping up with that speed, because we've been so material and in this density, and we've been bringing up a lot of stuff to purge. History's been a big thing. We've been purging collective history through us into our singular experience, and we've had to rise above that. So there's been all kinds of stuff like that. But money is really a program that we default to that is a difficult one right now. And what the guides are saying, first and foremost, is that's one of the first programs or structures on the planet that is going to fail. And they talk about the corporation, like the corporation is basically a material singular density. That energy was created in a consciousness that can no longer hold on to what's here and what we are anymore. And even though that is a pending thing that's going to happen, we're the ones that are creating that change, because the energy comes first and then it manifests into, a physical experience. So I truly believe that our energy is what is going to be the catalyst of change for our monetary system. We know we need something better, and some type of an exchange or a trade. There's no lack there. But the guides have actually brought in a really interesting message about timelines and money. So, we identify ourselves, we define ourselves through these programs, and that's what gets us. They call them imprints. So to give you an example, we've really defined ourselves through the program of money. Some of us are poor, some of us are wealthy, some of us are middle class,
Absolutely. And it seems to be the thing that we value the most. People kill each other over money. I mean, anyway, but I said, go on, please go on.
But those programs or those identities become our excuse for lack because when we are so singular with these definitions. So, you might think, well, the people in the wealthy area, they've got it good. They don't have any problems. Well, the guides say absolutely not, because those people that are wealthy, what are they doing every day? They're getting in a car, they're going to a job that they don't like, that's not their inner truth, because they're in a state of fear that they're going to lose the money. So they're working extra hard to make the money, right? And then when the money comes, that's the freedom. The freedom comes through money, right? So right there, we've got two operating programs, money and freedom, that are restricting us from manifesting. So what's happening here on the planet is we're moving into a more collective form of manifestation, and that's available to us right now. Mm-hmm. So we've been manifesting very singularly for the self, and that's okay. That was the density we were in. That's the way we operated. It's the way we learned. We wanted that new car, whatever it was, the relationship. But now the energies have changed, and Mother Gaia is vibrating faster. We are too.
Yeah.
We're in a new direction. We can manifest singularly for the self. We have to be purpose driven. We have to be service driven. That doesn't mean we're in lack. It doesn't mean we suffer. It doesn't mean we don't have to have money or the car or the relationship. It just means that we are in alignment with our truth, our collective purpose in the world, in a way that supports that manifestation.
Yeah.
To get right?
You're seeing that with so many industries that are just expanding exponentially. Uber, for instance. You know, I've got a car, so not everyone needs to have their own car. I can drive you around for a small fee. There's something called the car next door also, where, you know, the lady next door, or for me, for instance, I work at home, so I don't have to use my car all the time, so my neighbours can borrow my car. So we're sharing this, and I've got so many friends that are wanting to go into the country and they want to grow their own food and live this collective lifestyle where everything's trade, you know, and money is not a part of it. And if you do need material things, then there's another fabulous website where you just borrow, you do this exchange. You need a lawnmower, you just, you know, I'll lend you this if you lend me that. That's this whole collective consciousness coming into play in a practical way. It's really fascinating to watch it happening.
I agree. And there's so much of that happening all over the world, you know, and if you tune in and you see that, you can really see the manifestations of our consciousness. It gives you hope because you can see how things are beginning to change, right? It's just going to expand from here, which is amazing. But yeah, you really have to watch your frequency around money because we have to realize that abundance can show up in a variety of ways. And neutrality is what the guides talk about a lot, having a neutral energy, which really just means no attachment. Right. So, you know, if we're being of service, of course, we need to be supported in the world. But, you know, if we're expecting, we have an attachment to something with that service or, you know, with the relationship, you know, a lot of the relationships we had were connected to material aspects of our existence. And that's why these relationships are falling away. So many people are, you know, right now shifting in their relationships because we're bringing souls in and connections in that support our inner truth and support our, you know, our collective assignment in ways that these material types of connections could never do, you know. And doesn't mean those relationships can't shift and change. They certainly can, but both souls have free will. Right? To be able to do that. So the only way that you can shift a relationship is not to force them along with you, but to really own your inner truth and start expressing that more in the world. Because, you know, like we mentioned, the people around you can completely change through your vibration. So that can happen with the relationship. The more you stay neutral with your current circumstances and what's happening, and things are going to start moving. You know, the guides have been saying this holding pattern's done. You know, we're going into now a period where things are going to start moving again. And I think people are going to be pleased to see the new stuff starting to show up. It's been a long time we've been in this place. We've been doing a lot of purging. Yeah. A lot of healing. Me too. I think do it.
We've been doing a lot of purging. Yeah, hallelujah to that. I'm finding it, you know, being in your energy, Micheila, I'm totally dropping into the, you know, when I channel, and I'm finding it hard to hang on to my personality as I speak with you, you know, because I've got my little curious personality mind that's interviewing you. And then I've got also that place where I go into that channeling that's just, so I'm sort of like trying to stay focused on what you're saying. Stay focused, stay focused. Because your energy is so expansive. It's beautiful. But what would you say to people that, you know, any light workers that are listening, or what would your guide say that are having a struggle with the mind? You know, I'm thinking of one in particular that I was hanging out with recently. She's an incredible, like, channel and brings through the language of light and sort of operatic sound, like sound you wouldn't believe. And she does this money drama all the time where she's just up against the wall with not a cent to a name, can't eat sort of thing, doesn't know where the next cent's coming through, and goes back into that third dimensional paradigm. I've got to go on the dole in order to survive. And it's just so fascinating to see these two realities living so powerfully within one person. So powerfully, like, yeah, she's really struggling in the third dimension, not grounded at all, I suppose. You know, a lot of people talk about being grounded. You've got to be grounded as a healer. What does that mean, you know, to be grounded in the third dimension when you're really powerfully in the fifth?
It means bringing in the higher self and operating in a dimension that's higher with your experience day to day. And that's a tough thing to do, right? Yeah. You know, to go back to the money question, you know, what the guides are saying is we're transitioning here. And it's difficult because that fourth dimensional space, you can see both sides. And you can see that in people, they know they're here to do something bigger. They gravitate to the spiritual stuff, but then something happens material, whether it be their physical bodies or money, and they're easily turned back into that third dimension. Well, those are those programs we're talking about. Those have really deep-rooted energetic claws in us. And
Yep.
And the way that we need to catch that is really a really simple way. It's our attention, because our perception and our attention is everything.
Yep.
The guides say that is our energetic currency. And when we're aware of what we're doing in the mental body and the emotional body in response to our experience, we become the creator. But in addition to that, we set that neutral tone where those infinite potentials exist. So timelines has been another really big conversation that's been coming through in a lot of my channels and a lot of questions people have been asking. And
can I just interrupt you? Just explain to people that are listening to this what a timeline is.
A timeline is an energetic creation that is coming through you. And it does not have to manifest, but it can. So to give you an example, every thought that you have, that you have emotion wrapped around in some way, is a potential timeline that you have running in your energy.
Yeah.
So this is the example the guys gave just recently. If you have a thought, I'm going to lose my job tomorrow, and that thought evokes fear, you just created a timeline that exists in the universe by which you lose the job. Yeah. That does not mean that timeline has to manifest into physical form until you match the frequency of it. So if you stay anchored in that place of fear and you're running that timeline over and over again in your head, you're most certainly going to match it at some point, because the universe is always looking to match energies and frequencies. We are magnetic. So we're always creating. There's just a variety of different timelines running that we have in any moment. Yeah. Some are higher dimensional timelines, some are lower dimensional timelines, and we match those to our frequency. Our frequency is our emotional body. Yeah. And that is the way that we've been manifesting in singular form. I know a lot of people have been taught thoughts are things. I believe that thoughts are things, but our thoughts create our emotions, which creates our frequency. So if we stay very attentive to what we're thinking and what we're feeling about any potential scenario we have going on, we can begin to see the timelines we are creating. And every moment we create anew. The guides have said even our physical body in each moment is a manifestation of our consciousness. We think we wake up every morning with the same physical body and the same pain and the same hair and the same eyes and whatever that may be. But we create that physical body in every moment. And same way we create our experience in every moment. So when you think about that, it becomes very empowering. Because there are so many potential timelines we've created that are joyous and blissful and aligned with our soul. And, those things that we want to do that create excitement and inspiration in us. The more that we gravitate towards those things, the more we match the frequency of them, we know we're going to go in the direction of our soul. And the guides will even say, when you get into that money scenario and you see yourself, with the brain just going, money, lack. The only way to break that pattern, first of all, is to recognize it. Because the second you call attention to it, you're breaking up an energetic pattern you have going on. And to take this even further, this is a historic pattern. It's something that has happened to you before, and it's something that has happened in the collective consciousness. We have an effect on everything, and everything has an effect on us. So we had this conversation the other night, and it was a difficult one. We went full circle. The Great Depression, for example, the guides bring up the Great Depression. That was a time in our American history by which there was a lot of people that lost money. You're reliving that history through you in your singular expression when you think, I'm going to lose my job tomorrow. You're matching that collective history and you're bringing it through you and expressing it. And you have a free will choice in that moment. You can rewrite that history and recreate it differently, or you can accept the timeline and you can experience it the way that you're creating it. So when we begin to put that all together, that's when we get into that zone where we can start gravitating into that fifth dimensional collective manifestation that's there. And there's no lack in collective. The collective energy knows no lack. So we can't operate in that lack mentality anymore. So we have to be really careful to stay neutral. Mm-hmm. That means no attachments, no looking backwards, no defaulting to programs, right? Even when we see where I was going with that is finding your excitement, finding your inspiration in any moment. Even if you spend 5 minutes a day, it's going to take your frequency away from where you were tuned into this lack of money. And it's going to match something different in your vibration that's aligned with your soul. And if you put a little bit of energetic currency every day into that inspiration, that excitement, outside of even the topic of money.
Yeah.
Inevitably, you're gonna manifest the resources that you need.
Yeah, I've seen you say this, and my guide said this to me years ago too. I wrote a whole article on it about your frequency being your currency. It's not the notes in your wallet. It's the vibration in your being that is your currency. And there's one of the messages that I wrote years ago. What is it? What do you pay attention? That's right. Pay attention. Like the word pay. Mm-hmm. Pay attention. I can't even remember. I'll have to go back and look at it. I wrote it years ago. What are you paying attention to? So what are you buying into? This whole concept of money is in our language. You're paying attention. So you're buying into something. So you're giving your worth. Because as I said before, we give so much worth to money, but your worth is your attention. That's your currency. And you reminded me of something that I read years ago on the Seth material, because like your journey, I was reading what's her name, the dancer that wrote all those books, and I've gone blank on her name, Shirley MacLaine, there you go. And she was saying that a book fell off a bookshelf in a new age, and she was meant to read it. And I remember reading that and thinking, I wish that would happen to me. Guess what? It happened to me. I was babysitting and a book jumped off a bookshelf. Literally just jumped off a bookshelf for no reason. And I went over and picked it up, and it was the Seth material.
Oh, how fun. I love when that stuff happens.
Yeah, I know. Wasn't that great? I didn't even know. This is when I was in my very early 20s. And, something that Seth said all those years ago, which blew my mind. And it took me years to understand it. And in this conversation, we're having that understanding of it. And that's the understanding of timelines or probable realities. Mm-hmm. And he said that every choice that is ever made is made manifest, and then he went on to say, you're on the phone, a girlfriend says, come out for lunch. You say, yes, no, maybe, I'll stay at home and go to bed, I'll do this. And, there's a few decisions. And he said, every decision that's made is made manifest. And I remember throwing the book across the room thinking, I can't wrap my head around that. But it's explained when you think about timelines. And as you said, like every choice is there to make manifest in this particular reality, depending on the vibrational match to the probable reality or to the timeline. And so all these different probable realities exist as soon as you think them or, bring them into existence with your energy, with your thinking. Right. And then you bring them into this reality through a vibrational match. So it took me years to understand that, years. It's a concept that I think video games, because you can have different probable realities that you can choose in video games, or what do you call those games? I've actually never played them.
Right, yeah, of course. But I've been channeling a book, and it's not quite complete yet. It's a really beautiful, large work, but the guides have been talking a lot about the brain, the mind, the mental body, and the reptilian consciousness. We do have a reptilian consciousness on our planet, and it's very easy for us to be taken away by the mind into creations of our energy that are not serving us. And it's because the mind is not the only part, right, of that equation, how we talked about the emotional body and the energy body, but it all starts up here. Our mind can very easily take us into scenarios that cause us disruptions in our vibration. And you can see this in the media, right? You can see it in the video games and movies, things like that. Even on social media, How are we taken into, all of these lower vibrations with the mind, creating a vibration of fear, because we know it's either fear or love. We're either operating in fear or operating in love. And we can talk about all the other emotions or vibrations along that scale, but they lead up to one or the other, And so when you think about the mind, how valuable of a tool is that? So the mind was given to us to create through our energy. The energy comes first, the inspiration comes first, the love comes first, and then the mind kicks in and helps us make it physical. Now we put it in logical order, and we're able to say, I want it to be this way, or, this is the way it would please me most, and this is the way I can do it. But a lot of times we put the mind first, and we have this problem with money. We say, my gosh, I got to make money. What am I going to do? What am I going to plan? What am I going to write? How am I going to manifest this, in physical? When we have to take a step back, we have to align our energy first. And look at what that's creating in us, all that, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? I have to do. No, you have to, balance, align, you have to vibrate. Right. Then the mind can come in and say, this is what I need to do.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so important. Look, that's so important. I can't reiterate that enough. I can't spread that message enough, because we're so seduced by the doing. Yeah, we're so seduced by the doing. And I say to people that any action taken from a place of lack only creates more lack. Like you go out and look for a job, and because you're feeling like you haven't got the money, and then your car breaks down, and then that's another bill, and then you have an accident and that's another bill. It just, any action, any motion forward taken in a vibration just expands that vibration. And so like before you walk out the door, shift the vibration. I've just been watching a family member go through her dark night of the soul, and just as she's hating her life and hating everything, just everything's going wrong. And so she had an accident and lost her license, and then this, and then thrown out of the house, and then like everything just in concession, bang, 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 bang. Everything she doesn't want to happen is happening as she's indulging in a frequency of vibration, negative emotions, as she's hating herself and hating life, and nothing's working out for me, and I haven't got any money, and life's hard, and life's a struggle, and life is saying, yes, you're right. Let me show you how right you are. I'm just going to make it more of a struggle. Yeah.
Universe is responding to the vibration.
Jack Canfield, one of my favorite teachers, who makes law of attraction very practical, says that his teacher, what's his name, Clement Stone, said that he was a reverse pessimist, and he thought that the universe was conspiring for him in everything that happened. It was happening as a gift for him, as, to benefit him. Instead of thinking, life's conspiring against me, life's conspiring for me.
Yeah. Well, I totally agree with that. Even some of our darkest nights of the soul are for the best, things that have happened. And I've noticed that when I go through some times in my life where I really struggle, I turn around and look at where it got me and think, oh my gosh, I would have never done that on my own. Had I not had to do it that way, I would have never done it. So there's a lot to be said for that too. The guides always talk about these ascension codes we have in us, which are they're triggered by our incarnation date. So when the planets align with these various ascension codes, it triggers an event, and we have this beautiful choice, that we get to handle that event in a way that is either in alignment with the healing of it, or takes us into more of that history, that density that we came here to purge. And a lot of times you can see, we replay this stuff over and over again. I mean, how many of us have had the same relationship and different people? We end one relationship, we don't heal it, we bring it up again with somebody else. That's how that happens. So these ascension codes that trigger, they give us a karmic experience, and we're meant to raise the dimension around it. The guys have been talking about the higher self a lot lately. and we're really bringing the higher self in as a tool and anchoring that into our crystalline structure. And what does that mean? We're multidimensional, you know, and our higher self is the seer of all of those timelines and gets to bring them, like all of the information from them together so that we can use it. The guys have been relating to this more about our collective assignment lately too. You know, we all came here, I believe, for a divine purpose. You know, we had a very specific collective intention, but I don't want to make it so serious, like, oh, you didn't fulfill your mission. You know, I don't think that's what it's about. I think at the soul level, we desire to come and be physical for something really big in the world. And, you know, we talked about the fact of, you know, suppressing that or lacking that, you're shut down in resistance in some way where you're experiencing pain or whatever it may be. But the higher self knows the way to put all those pieces of the puzzle together. And I feel like we've already been manifesting a lot of that information about what we're here to do and why. And we've had a difficult time putting it together and manifesting into the physical world in a way that it makes sense for us. You know, even some healers, like you mentioned, your friend who's the channel. Our assignments are changing right now because we have a new collective energy. You know, some of us have been very focused in the singular in our assignments. And now we have to raise that up to a new dimensional reality. So we have to keep our minds open. Yeah.
I'd like to explore that a bit more. Our assignments have been very singular. So what you're saying is our assignment has been about when you say singular, about me ascending, me becoming more enlightened. It's been about my enlightenment. Is that what you're talking about? And now it's no more about me so much as we. Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily. I think that we were in a density that limited our ability to really get the skinny on what we were here to do.
The skinny? What's the skinny? I don't know what the skinny is.
Information. Yeah, to put it all together. You know, we had so much density that we couldn't really perceive it. And so we perceived it in the singular world. And, you know, I'll give you an example. I've been working with the clients that I have. They're just beautiful, beautiful light workers in the world. They're just doing such amazing, amazing things. My gosh, I just got off a client call. This woman is just doing amazing stuff in the world. But some of those people, they manifested their gifts in the singular energy. So maybe they were an energy healer and they were working with maybe a singular, you know, maybe working just with you one-on-one and helping you to clear history or timelines or something within you. But what's happening now is we're moving into a more collective space. And that history that we've been purging through us is becoming more of a collective type of expression. And you can see that going on in the world, right? There's been a lot of things happening that have not been to our liking these days. And I think healers are moving into a new phase where even the way that they did their work has to change in order to assist the timeline. You know, healers are finding that they're moving into a different type of energy and they're meant to maybe work with collectives or they're meant to do their work differently. Or I've had a lot of people that the guides have told they're maybe here to work with those people that are in that third dimensional collective and help them bridge over. You know, now it's time for them to turn their attention that way, you know, maybe where they were working with more enlightened type of people, you know, and that sort of healing. And, you know, we're all shifting right now into a new dimension with our collective assignment that we may have interpreted through a denser energy. But it was perfect in the moment. You know, it worked in the moment. It was what we were here to do, and we did what we were here to do. And, you know, the guides always say there's no mistakes. Divine timing, right? Our records are timed to give us the information we need when, you know, we're activated to do this. But of course, we come with free will, you know, and that free will sometimes can get us in trouble if we're not, you know, opening ourselves to higher dimensional information. Right, and going with that energy.
Well, they've told me that, you know, I've asked about free will versus life plan, mission, divine plan, whatever you want to call it. And they've said, you know, free will, you can actually, you know, with free will, you can manifest something that wasn't in your life plan. But, you know, when you're using your free will to get something you think you want and your soul's saying, that's not why you came. You came for another reason.
Right.
It's a struggle. Like it's a painful process. But when you're on your life plan, your divine plan, it just flows effortlessly. It's like you're in the flow, you're just in this flow. And, back to the pain in the body, as you're doing what you've come to do, you're not experiencing that pain anymore. So maybe if you didn't do this, you'd still be in pain. I don't know. Who's to say what would happen?
Right.
But this free will versus destiny is something a lot of people talk about. Is it destiny or can I choose? Especially when the conversation of law of attraction came in to play in the collective. I mean, Rhonda Byrne, who put out The Secret, put that into the collective and opened a whole new conversation around empowerment and free will and destiny. It was really interesting. So, can I create anything I want, or am I here specifically to create something specific? Do I have a choice in that? This is the question that we're playing with. And
it's an interesting topic. I kind of go down the middle road with a lot of that based on what I've channeled. I believe we come with a collective assignment, but that collective assignment isn't so specific. And where our free will comes in is that we came to experience joy. So if you think you have this collective assignment and this collective assignment is something you have to suffer at and you have to work really hard at and it's not going to make you happy, you're absolutely wrong, because then you're not using your free will to create this collective assignment the way it was intended.
Yeah.
And so I really feel like I'm here on this planet to help people better understand what their collective assignment is. And in all of my sessions, this information comes through.
Yeah.
Guys will always say, they're opening your record and they're allowing that information to come through in conjunction with your energy as it stands in the moment, right? And you have this collective assignment, but you came here to experience it through your free will.
Yeah.
Meaning you have a choice at how it manifests, how it looks, how you do it. And really, I'm always amazed when people I don't even know come onto my, my calls, and we'll identify, the guides will come in and say, this is the agreement that you made. This is why you came. This is how it manifests. And they're already doing it in some way, either in the third dimension, because they perceived it in a really material way, or they've done parts of it scattered. And then the guides pull it all together and they become very inspired and it gets exciting, like, wow, I never thought, here I was doing this stuff, but I never thought I could pull it all together like that, So when I think of destiny, I'll go back to those Ascension Codes. I do believe at the soul level, we come with a set of experiences to have. And those experiences are triggered by our incarnation date, and the planets revolve around that incarnation date. We chose that. And when we trigger one of those Ascension Codes, we do have experiences that are a part of our if you want to call it destiny or record. But again, we have free will as to how we choose to experience those. A lot of people call those experiences karmic, and we suffer through them, but we were never meant to suffer through them. They were things that were meant to bring us to our own enlightenment. And again, free will comes into play there. We get to choose how we experience this set of experiences or timelines, if you will, that are already embedded within us that we come with.
Yeah. I love that saying, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional.
Absolutely. That's free will right there.
That's free will right there. I had a friend who died last year at the 36. She was they had it when I talk about them in the past because they're still here chatting. She is a beautiful kirtan singer, and she woke up she met the love of her life. She woke up she was in the corporate world pretty suddenly, found her guru, found the love of her life, got married, and traveled the world teaching, doing charity, singing, inspiring people all over the world. And she did that for only a few years. And at 36 was diagnosed with cancer and died within weeks. And, talking to her soul, like that was the plan. But to people looking on, how could this magnificent, beautiful being who's spreading so much light and love get sick and die? It just, it put so many people into confusion. But there was no healing that body. And, that plan for her to exit at that time was not going to change. There was just no healing her body. It was really interesting to watch that. But when you look at life from broader perspective, there is no such thing as death. And so there was nothing that went wrong. There was just a decision to exit, and that she's still here hanging out, inspiring us all from a different perspective. And but it does put a lot of confusion into people who are thinking that being connected to source and loving your life and being happy means you're going to be healthy and live forever.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. We have our souls are expressing themselves on so many different timelines and dimensions. The guides always point that out. And when I go into session, we always identify some of those, both cosmic and earthly, and those, it's hard to imagine, but those expressions of your consciousness, they're actually having an effect on you in the moment. They're a part of you. It's all a part of you. So yeah, I do believe that, her work was probably done, right? And it was time. And, I've had a lot of tough questions from people about children. Why would a child leave this planet? Why would that happen? Well, the guides always bring that example in. They came here with that plan because there was something that they were meant to do, or, there was an imprint they were meant to leave within the collective consciousness. And that imprint was made, that plan was done, and it was time.
Mm-mm. I think as a teacher who dies young, the advent of death is such a lesson in itself, because it wakes you up to there is so much more than the physical body when you're believing that life is all about this physical body. And because that was my wake-up call. Like, Mum dies when I'm 16, and I was asking questions. Where did she go? Where did we come from before we came? That beautiful gift of death for me was my awakening. So many souls say, I'm going to come and wake you up by dying. Because I'm just going to come, have a good time, leave, and you're going to say, where did you go? You're going to follow me home. You're going to stay in your body, but you're going to follow me home. So, yeah, death can be such a gift in many ways. And yet, in the mass, third dimensional collective, it's seen as such a tragedy. In fact, it creates the worst pain that we experience here, that sense of loss, and that we've gone where we're unattainable anymore. So we've been yakking forever. I could talk to you for ages. I'm just looking at the time.
Yeah.
So how are we going to end this? We could chat for ages. You're doing great work. I just see your, as I watch you channeling, I see your, grasping for vocabulary as you're bringing through concepts that have no vocabulary. And I just, as I watch you, I think to myself, well, that'll shift. The more you're getting used to bringing through these as I've watched Esther Hicks over the years, shift and change her vocab. She's just saying the same thing over and over again, but just picking different words and choosing different analogies, and there's just so many ways to explain the same thing, isn't there? And I see that for you too. As the more you get into this, you'll just find new words, new analogies to explain the same thing. And are you conscious when you're channeling? Are you
when I'm doing my live lectures, if the ones that you see on YouTube, I am a trance channel, so I do both. But I often don't remember much at all of what's said in those sessions, because I'm in a trance channel for a good hour and a half, and I come through. It's funny, I get better. I've gotten better at it. I always say, like softball, the more you play, the better you get. Yeah. When I first started channel, I just had no memory of it. I just come through and I had no clue what was just said. Now I walk away with the gist, and I almost kind of get the message before if I'm doing a live event earlier in the day, I'll almost get that download where I kind of know what it's going to be about. And then I'll walk away with the knowing of what it was. But yet when I watch back, I'm always amazed. But I can conscious channel too. I'm like I mentioned. Well,
you can, because you've been doing it during this interview.
And, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and see, that's the way I channel. I'm a conscious channeler, and I haven't sort of done the whole, leave the building thing yet. And
right.
I think I decided not to do that at some stage. I don't know why. Maybe I'd like to play with it. I don't know. For a minute there, I felt like I was leaving the building as I was trying to stay in my personality talking to you. Yeah. There was a part of me wanting to come in, and I'm like, stay here. Anyway, it's really interesting, the process. I actually like conscious channels because I like the personality. It's relatable. The first time I saw Bashar channel, I just went, oh, God, I don't want to listen to this. I listened to many channels. But then when I saw Daryl Anker being interviewed as Daryl Anker, I'm like, oh, this guy's so cool. And I liked Daryl. And so I went back to Bashar, and then I could listen to Bashar because I connected with Daryl. You know what I mean? And so for me, that was really interesting. It's like I wanted to connect to the person because you know what? I'm a person as well. So we're all people here tapping into higher consciousness and bringing it through. But I guess we're a person first. We're a person and personality first. And that's the biggest challenge that we're dealing with, being that person.
Absolutely.
Being that personality, that mind, that personality. Yeah. So... to have that relatability I think is really important. Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun leaving the building, and it's fun being in the building. Yeah. I like to do both.
Oh, Micheila, it's been so beautiful to connect with you today. And
Thank you for having me.
I'd love to connect with you more because I love your message. It's a great message, and there's so much more to because you're contacting so many different aspects. I didn't get into the whole galactic thing, but maybe another day. So great. Where can people find out more about you?
Oh, absolutely. MicheilasSheldan.com. So it's MicheilaSheldan.com, or floweroflifecenter.org. I'm also the executive director of that Flower of Life Center here in Michigan, and we are a volunteer organization that's furthering human consciousness. So one more website I'll give is Awaken Empowered Expo, which is a big national or international event we do here twice a year, actually. We have one coming up November 4th through the 6th. But if you go to Awaken Empowered Expo, there's a great YouTube channel link there that has a lot of my videos that I think your listeners will enjoy.
So what happens at the expo? It's people like you get up and talk and channel, or...
Well, it's not all channeling. We bring in pioneers in all areas of higher consciousness. So we have ancient archaeology. We talk about channeling, mediumship, vibrational energy, all kinds of healers. There's a variety of different healing sessions to sit in on. We actually have exhibitors that are offering just revolutionary products, services for healing, spirituality, alternative health. We talk about raw food, Chinese herbalism, leading edge stuff, longevity, science, and it's a life-changing event. I don't feel like there's any other event out there like it. So if you're interested, definitely check out awakenempoweredexpo.com. November 4th through 6th here in Detroit, but we do it twice a year. And it's been an amazing event.
Beautiful. Well, we'll have to get you down. 11:11. I just looked at my clock. We'll have to get you down under, as I say. We have to get you down.
I love that. Yeah.
I look at 11:11.
I'm ready. Packing my bags.
I know. I was just saying to Daniela, who I was speaking to a couple of days ago, who channels Mother Mary. I have so many beautiful beings and things going on in the States that I connect with. I mean, we have a lot of amazing people here in Australia as well, but. It's nice to sort of travel the world and spread your light. We can go there and you can come here.
That sounds great. I'm ready.
Thank you for talking with us today.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Blessings.
Okay, blessings to you.
Thanks so much for joining us for another enlightened conversation on Accentuate the Positive. If you would like spiritual guidance from my guides, blissful beings, go to karenswain.com for a reading, or to listen to more enlightened thought leaders share their wisdom. Go to the listen page on karenswain.com and choose who you want to listen to. All the podcasts are also available on iTunes. Remember to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, you name it, we're there. Until next time, bye for now.
If you feel like that's what you want to do,